Hello and welcome to What is Magic, a series of videos that I've created having a discussion with some of the most interesting and some of the most creative minds in magic currently about what magic is. We talk a little bit more philosophically about magic, what magic means to our audiences, what magic means to us, and how we can be the best magicians possible for our audiences. In today's episode, I speak to Troy, or Troy Magician, as lots of his social media handles are. I have known Troy since we were kids. We used to go to the Young Magicians Club at the Magic Circle together some 25 years ago now, and it's been so great to see him have so much success, have, I think, 3 or 4 television series that have aired globally to tens of countries, maybe hundreds of countries. I don't know exactly how many, but it's great to see him having such success. Troy has performed for very interesting clients, very interesting brands. He's been the face of FC UK and other big brands. So without further ado, please do enjoy this chat with Troy Magician, and I hope you find it as interesting as I found it. Troy, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for joining me here, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Long time no speak.
Yeah, exactly. We might touch on this throughout this discussion, but you and I have a long-standing relationship. But as I say, that may get touched on, it may not with our discussion. The first thing I want to start with, my main question for you is your thoughts, your opinion. The question is very simple. What is magic?
What is magic? Well, for me, the way I describe it to people, I always say it's an emotional state, personally. Magic's a feeling. When people ask me if magic is real, I say absolutely. Do you cry when you watch a film that's sad? That's a real feeling. Do you get scared when you watch a horror film, when you jump? That's a real feeling. You know it's not real, what's actually happening, but the experience and the feeling feels real. It's exactly the same when you're watching a magician. If he does his job well, you will be experiencing a sense of magic. It heightens your emotion in a different way that no other craft can. So for me, what is magic? It's a feeling, ultimately.
This is so. I think out of everyone who I've spoken to so far, this has been the most well summed up explanation and answer. It's short and it's specific. Magic is a feeling, it's an emotion, it's an experience that as magicians we try to get our audience to feel, just
Mm,
like a director gets someone to feel something when they see their movie or when they see a play or something like that. And for me, that's really interesting as well because magicians get so caught up in the trick.
yeah.
What's the next trick they're going to do? What's this trick that they're going to buy? But for you, in terms of when you're getting someone to experience something, what's more important to you in that experience? Is it the trick? Is it the emotions? Is it the storytelling? What kind of is your thought process when you're trying to get someone to have that feeling of magic?
It's a bit of everything. Like I get caught up in, I need I need new material where it's bigger, it's using different things, and yeah, I get caught up in that too. And sometimes I do forget that the performance trumps all of that because it doesn't matter if you're doing the smallest thing or the biggest thing. You need to execute the performance every time, and the feeling of magic should be the thing that you strive to achieve when you perform. You don't want people feeling like they've seen a trick. You want people feeling like they've seen magic, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how we're going to separate the amateurs from the professionals. Anyone
Hmm.
can buy a trick and perform it, and it feels like a magic trick. You can go buy dynamic coins, and you can go buy a Svengali deck, or whatever, which are very beginner based tricks. Professionals use them, and they put their
Hmm.
little twist on them and they can be amazing. But generally, what separates us is people that's come into this game, it feels like tricks. People that are serious about this, they will make it feel like magic. And yeah, that's what we strive for. And that's what we should strive for every time.
So that for you, and this is the whole reason I wanted to have this create this series of videos, and also with very different people in magic who have different experiences, because for me, we don't, as magicians, we don't discuss why we do magic and what magic is
Yeah.
and what magic can be enough with people. And we, as I say, we get so bogged down with some people stress over the performance. Some people need to buy the new trick every month. Some people need to get the upgraded version, and it's always a different kind of race to something
Mm.
else. But we don't talk about, hey, if you just have a single coin and you have a pack of cards, you can perform just as strong miracles depending on
Yeah,
how you make people feel. And the philosophy of
absolutely.
magic is so important.
Yeah. I mean, listen, magic is a business as well. So
Mhm.
it's an industry where, and especially now, where, you know, this is a content driven world now. So the magic companies are obviously capitalizing on this and exploiting this by now releasing a shit ton of material that people think that they need to create content. And things people will buy it because
Mhm.
we're all told that we need to make content, we need to make it engaging, we need to make it visual, we need to make it this, we need to make it that. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of shit that is released just because it looks visual on the trailer or whatever else that you see it on.
Mhm.
It's a business.
And this is the good thing though as well. You go to other professions, and this is, I think, a little bit less common. But with magic, people are so passionate about it, and
Mm,
sometimes this comes out constructively, and sometimes it comes out not so constructively. But
yeah.
this is exactly what I was hoping would happen. These questions that I have for you, the discussion that we're trying to have is passion led. It's about what we believe in magic and what we think about it.
Yeah.
But we've gotten kind of your idea of what magic is, right?
Yeah.
And so a couple of the elements that are important when people are learning magic, and how people should maybe focus on the delivery a little bit more than
Yeah.
the process of trick accumulation. But I want to know, what in your memory is your first ever experience, or what was your first ever experience of magic?
My first ever experience. It was probably my dad, actually.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever told this story to anyone, but my dad, um, a trick that he'd done, he had a deck of cards. He told me to shuffle them. He had a card in his
Hmm.
wallet, and he said, "All right, you shuffle the cards. Great. I'm going to put the wallet on top of the cards so we can't change anything. I can't touch the deck. You don't touch the deck." I have a card in my wallet that was a prediction of where you would stop. So he lifted up his wallet. He said, "Okay, turn over the top card." It was like a king. I can't remember. Maybe it was like king of clubs, king of spades. Then he opened
Hmm.
his wallet. He took out the card, and then sure enough, it was the same card. And I remember, and he just walked out of the living room, and I was just like, "What?" And this is before like I've even seen David Blaine or even
Yeah.
seen my first magic show was actually George Kovari, the
Hmm.
great Kovari, and I think he was performing in Blackheath. But in Blackheath Halls. But that was the first magic trick where I was like, okay, how the obviously not that language because I was like four
Yeah.
years old. But I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But yeah, that was the first trick I saw.
That's interesting that when I ask what was your first experience of, so you explain that magic isn't necessarily about magic tricks. Magic is an emotion.
Yeah.
So, but when I asked you what your first experience of magic was, and
Oh,
maybe this is my
that would have been
terminology.
it. Yeah, yeah, no, that would have been it. When I say
Okay,
trick, I mean also that was my first experience of feeling like, whoa,
right,
how did that even how would you even know that?
yeah.
And you just
You
like a like a layman, you just like you're referencing like all the decisions that you've made. You're working backwards. You're like, what? Even at 4 years
so,
old, like there's
so
an
did this
understanding of
influence your love of magic? Is it your
no,
dad who?
no.
Okay, that came later.
It was really David Blaine, to be honest with
Right.
you. I mean, I've had interest before that. So I'll go back to George Kovari, who I saw when
Yeah.
I was about 5 or 6, maybe. So shortly before my dad showed me that magic. So shortly after my dad showed me the magic trick.
Mm,
I don't remember any of the material that he done, but all I remember was I was quite good at drawing when I was young. And backstage, well, not backstage, but in the bar area, I drew a picture of him, and he came to the bar to say hello and to thank everybody for coming. And then my dad told me to give the picture to him, so I gave it to him, and he was like really impressed. And he said, "You know what? I want to give you a magic set. I want to give you my book."
oh wow.
And obviously, I was like, wow, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then I started to learn all the stuff in his books and all the props from the magic box. But then that kind of shortly died. The interest kind of peaked for about 2, 3 months max.
Hmm.
And then David Blaine came out when I was around, I think I was around 12 years old, and I saw a street
How,
magic
how
show.
old how old were you when George gave you that magic set, and you
I
became
think I,
enamored for the few months?
think I was around 5.
Okay.
I think I was like maybe like 4, 5, 6, around that time. I can't remember exactly, but I
Mm.
remember there's a long period of me not being interested in magic. So from that,
Yeah.
from around 5, 6 to around 12, when I saw David Blaine, yeah, I was into other things like drawing and computer games and you name it, making things
This
from Blue
is
Peter and Art Attack,
trying to get that coveted blue badge sent to you.
and still haven't got it.
Well, there's always a hope and a dream to aim towards.
Yeah,
But
one day.
that's super interesting because that 11 to 13 gap seems to be the age that a lot of people come into magic. And
Yeah.
for anyone who's watching this chat with Troy first in these series of events, one of my other chats with John Steiner, he mentioned that between 11, 12, 13, we're not children anymore, but we're also not quite adults.
Mm,
So that was an interesting thing, and clearly that was a transition that you were in from
yeah,
adolescence into teenage years, where you started the concepts of magic started to appeal to you. Whereas when you were 5, 6, 7,
yeah.
you maybe wanted to play more than perform magic tricks.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was going to the park with my friend. When people used to go to the park rather than being glued to their phones. But I used to go
Well,
to the
now you
park
just
and play
connect to the park
football.
Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I used to skateboard. I used to do all the things that kids sort of like gravitate to. But it's funny when I did see David Blaine when I was like 12.
Yeah.
Um, Again, he made me experience that feeling of magic through a screen, seeing the card
Mhm.
rise up out of the box and the people screaming, him biting the coin, him levitating. At the time, that was just like it was groundbreaking. It was just like, how is this guy just going around the streets doing this? And it was validated by the people screaming because you're like, okay, so it's
Mhm.
not fake. Like these reactions look real. And even at 12 years old, I can see that that's not staged. That's real.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel like the magic's real. So I'm like, oh my God, how is he? So obviously, naturally, you want to try and replicate it. I mean, some people just watch it and enjoy it and
Mhm.
put it to bed. But for me, I had to get the videotape. I had to watch it over and over again, slow mo, fast forward. I need to get a pack of cards and just replicate every little thing that I could see him do. But yeah, he gave me that feeling for sure.
This gives me a nice natural introduction to. I want to ask you about the current day of magic because we've spoken about your early childhood experiences of a magic trick and wonder and having that emotive response. And then we have David Blaine when you were roughly 12. So
Mm,
now, as Troy the magician, a person who's been broadcast in hundreds of countries, who's performed for lots of
millions.
interesting people, someone who has seen and been exposed to a lot more magic and especially the business side of magic than most people.
Mm,
What are your thoughts of the current state of magic? Magic for people, what you think of magic, what you think of magicians right now, the Society of Magicians. So, what are your
mm,
current thoughts on, in comparison to the David Blaine days, where you everything was so pure and everything was
yeah.
so simple and not very convoluted? What are your
Mm.
thoughts on magic right now in 2024?
I feel like magic has definitely changed as an industry in terms of how you get work. There's so much, it's hard to just really whittle it. I'm trying to just whittle it down to like one thought.
Well,
Um,
we can take it as three. We can have it as a three-party question. So we'll break it down
um,
to your thoughts on magic in terms of as a hobby, as an interest, as something that people are consumers of, and then we'll
mm,
move on to magic as a business, and then we'll move on to kind of the social scene in magic and what you think about how magicians communicate with each other, how they could be more constructive, and things like that. So we'll
yeah,
start with your thoughts on magic as a consumer. You know, when you're buying tricks, how is it different now? When you're looking at creating new experiences for people, what are your
yeah.
thoughts on the current state of the production of magic?
Well, I do like the fact that there is a lot more material. Sure, a lot of it's terrible, but there's still ideas, and
Mhm.
ideas can lead on to more ideas, sometimes better ideas. So, you look at let's say you purchase something and it's like, oh, you get it, and it's like, actually, this is not what I thought it was. But it can lead on to something else that actually helps you with a different idea or a different concept.
Hmm.
So I like the idea that there is more material. What else do I like?
Do you
I
still
think
get
it's
hyped
it
up when you see a trailer for a new trick or you meet
rarely,
a magician?
rarely,
Okay.
rarely, because I know that it's not essentially what you're seeing a lot of the time. I know that when people film a trailer for a new trick, they're essentially filming what the effect is. So obviously there's they just want you to see the effects. They don't want you to see, like, the little bits of the misdirection that may need to happen, and they want it to look as clean as the audience will perceive it.
Hmm.
But obviously we are magicians and we know that there are certain things that would need to happen for certain things to work. So they're not always so forthcoming. And I think when you're doing trailers, especially for magicians, I think like there needs to be a degree of honesty of what we're getting, because you can't get
Hmm.
a refund on tricks. As we know, you can't, unless it's an electrical device or some type it's broken in some capacity, it doesn't work, then
Yeah.
sure, you'll get an exchange, you get a refund. But when you're buying the secret and it's done.
You guys,
So
you guys listening, all you magic producers, all you magic creators, be
yeah, I
a bit,
mean,
give us something to go on. Let us know like what we're buying.
but also as well, I know why they hide it a lot of the time, because
Yeah.
we're able to figure it out.
Mm.
And if we're
Yeah.
able to figure it out, we are less likely to buy it, especially if it's like a card trick as well. That doesn't involve some sort of gimmick or this or that. If it's
Yeah.
just, a card, an amazing card trick, but just involves a palm and a double lift, you're not going to
Yeah.
spend £13 in it, because you're like, well, it's just a palm and a double lift. And, I guess you just end up kind of, I guess as someone that's just coming into this, you just, I don't know, steal the concept of the idea of the
Yeah.
performance.
I think
Um,
in that respect, the ethics of magic is becoming muddied. When
it's been muddied.
well, but I know even in our generation, since we were kids,
Mm,
I think there was much more respect in secrets and exposure, and I'm sure that you will feel similar to this. That, in my experience, there's less respect for the secret, and there's less respect for the art of magic,
yeah.
and maintaining the integrity. And so, there are some people out there, some social media gurus, experts, social media icons, whatever you want to call them. Their whole social media is about, they have 1 million followers and it's all about exposing magic tricks. So
Because
certainly
there's
that's
there's an
changed in
appetite
our
for it.
generation.
There's
Mm,
an appetite for it, and some people just go with what people want. They don't, like you say, they don't care about the ethics or the
yeah.
etiquette, or whether it's somebody's idea, and they make money off it. That's their living, and now you're
Mm,
just ruining it and exposing it. You're kind of putting them out. But what I've come to realize is just people just don't care about you. Like,
yeah.
you just gotta. It's so hard to fight, especially with magic as well. Like intellectual property, it's just like, what are you actually gonna do? You can only send so many reports and complaints,
Hmm.
and you get the magic community on your side, and but it's not going to stop them from doing it. Look at the people that have made a name for themselves doing it. They're
Hmm.
still doing it. They're making money from it. They're making it work for them, and it just makes the magicians that do have the respect and do have the etiquette to work, I guess, extra hard.
Yeah.
And what I've realized is that when magic tricks are revealed, if you used to do a gig and someone had seen that video of the revelation of the trick that you're doing, more times than not, they don't even remember that they saw that video. Or maybe they
Yeah.
do remember that they saw it, but they don't remember how it was done. They were like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I'm sure I've seen how that was." But you know what? It's the element of surprise as magicians that we have when we do material, because they don't know what they're walking into.
Hmm.
So the effect is still going to work, and you're still going to get that feeling from them. So essentially, you've done your job. The fact that secrets are revealed sometimes,
Hmm.
I don't think it always takes away. Sometimes it makes people really interested in the construction of a magic trick, because there's some people that still think it's like real, and these people and magicians are just doing these things, and it's just. But I think when there's people that know that it's not real and there's actually a method behind it, and they actually see it, they're like,
Hmm.
oh shit, that's actually quite interesting. Because on my social media, I put up a video of how I made the moon vanish,
Hmm.
and I filmed that for my series. Well, one of the specials that I did that came out 2017 or 2018, I can't remember. And I felt like the method for that was actually more interesting than the trick
Hmm.
itself. I think making the
Okay.
moon vanish is very far fetched, and I don't think people would actually believe that I made the moon vanish, because
Mhm.
where was it documented? It would have been a worldwide event.
Yeah.
People would have been like, the moon is where, everyone in the world would have been on social media saying, where is the moon? The moon can't
Mhm.
just disappear for like 2 seconds for a TV show that, it's impossible. So I felt that me explaining how I did it was warranted because of how far-fetched the idea is. And
Mhm.
it turns out the method was actually as interesting as making the moon vanish, the
This
method.
this
So
is a really interesting idea as well. The fact that, as you said, sometimes exposing the secret and letting people in through the door or peek through the window to the world of magic gives them
mm,
that initial intrigue. But also the fact that if anyone in 3 months, in 6 months, in 1 year sees you at an event,
yeah,
they're not going to remember how you
no,
made the moon disappear. They're going to say, "Oh, I remember you posting that video about the moon, and that was so clever. I don't remember how it happened, but I loved it." So I think there is certainly with the content driven society that we live in, there's a
mm,
retention, because for every one magic video that someone watches, they've watched 1,000 cat or dog videos,
oh
and
yeah,
there's only so much we can remember. But circling back to, there's only so many things you can report, and there's only so many things you can do to mitigate piracy and the
mm,
theft of intellectual property. That reminds me of a really interesting conversation I had a few years ago. It might have even been pre pandemic, with Kayla Morelli. So he
okay,
released something, and he was releasing ideas, and he was being very open and honest and sharing with the community. And I DM'd him and I said, Kaylan, look, some people are not as respectful as you might hope that they will be. And he said, well, if people steal my ideas, I'll just send my team of lawyers after them. And I said, what? You're going to send your team of lawyers after, he's based in the States. You're going to send a team of lawyers after a 15-year-old kid in Italy. I don't, I don't think that's, so it's
but that's but
interesting.
that's that's the culture in America. It's a very
Mm,
suing
true.
culture. I'll sue you. That's the
Yeah.
culture. And if
Well,
anyone
he's
get a quick
Canadian.
buck out of doing it,
Before I get in trouble for
oh yeah,
calling
he
him
is
American,
Canadian.
he's Canadian.
But I think it leaks over to Canada as well. There is a
Yeah. Yeah.
there is a suing culture. But no, I hear your point. And
Yeah.
people, sometimes you've got to threaten people to make them stop. And when you
Mhm.
threat with legal action, depending on what type of person you are, you might get scared of that and be like, you know what, it's not even worth it. I want to pack it all in.
Yeah.
Or, you're gonna be like, okay, cool. Send your lawyers. I'm in Brazil.
Yeah.
It's gonna be more
How much
expensive
money
for
do you
you to
have?
sort
Yeah,
this. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. Of course, this is a three-part question. That's your thoughts on kind of magic as a consumer, and people perhaps take it a bit too seriously, and then in other respects, people should care less about exposure and just get on with what you're doing.
It's Do
And
you know, it's not that I'm saying that people should care less.
mm,
I'm just being a realist and saying it's gonna happen no matter what you
yeah,
do. And as annoying as it is, that
hmm
people have put their time, effort, love, and energy into creating this idea, especially for the magic community, that they can really use it and, you know,
hmm
and feel that they've contributed to the magic society in some capacity. And then for someone to just come in and just say, oh yeah, it's done like this, and here, and they've got X amount of followers and everyone's seeing it. I can imagine that's quite
hmm
disheartening, and it's hard to take. But ultimately, as the realist that I am, this gonna happen. If
yeah,
I come out with an idea and I release it, I know it's probably going to happen to me. Look, I've had expose videos of the tricks that I've done on my show, which have been like, and look, Dynamo's had it as well, David Blaine's had it as well. Every magician
hmm
has had it. Darren Brown, they reveal how he did the lottery. Like, all these tricks have been revealed. Like, it hasn't affected their legacy. It hasn't
yeah,
affected the people that really enjoy it, because then the people that
hmm
really enjoy it and love it for what it is are not going out looking for it. Some people love that they don't know. And if some
yeah,
if there's a video that comes up and says, oh, coin bite revealed, some people are like, no, 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 I don't want to see that. I
hmm
want it to feel like magic for me. I don't want it ruined.
and they're the people we
So
love, right? They're the ones at the events
those are
who are
the
just a
people we love.
joy to entertain.
But you know what? It's funny as well, because I've realized it's the way people have been educated to watch magic. This is where the
Mm,
issue is. I feel like the people that love it and don't want to know the secret, they've been educated correctly.
yeah,
And that's probably from a good magician telling them, listen, it's not about the trick, it's not about how it's done. It's about the experience. It's about what you feel off the back of this. And you know,
Yeah.
sometimes those things don't even need to be said. When a magician does his job well, he performs his effects or performs her effect,
Mhm.
and they do it well, you're naturally gonna get this, oh my God. And nothing else needs to be said. It's done. Those things that I said about educating, that's the education that they need.
Mhm.
Of course, they're gonna feel like, oh my God, how did you do that? How was it done? But that won't matter because that feeling was so strong.
I love that. I think later on there's a couple of questions that I have on kind of the future of magic. I think we might circle back to that idea of education, but
Okay.
the two other points for the three-pronged question, that is your thoughts on magic right now as a consumer of magic through social media, as a purchaser of magic tricks, those kinds of things, trailers. What's your current thoughts as a working magician for
Mm,
any of those out there who are earning money or trying to earn money as a magician? What are your current thoughts? And of course, sometimes you work internationally as well. So
yeah.
those jobs will be different from jobs in the UK and audiences will be different. So what's your current thoughts on magic as a business, as a
Um,
professional magician?
I will say that even though I'll go to the international thing first, it's all the same for me personally. Like no matter where I
Mhm,
travel to, you know, the business is conducted in the same way. Obviously, you know, if you're going to a country that doesn't speak English, you know, they will the person that is booking you would know that you only speak English. So they would have to know that their audience, especially if it's a non-English speaking country, that the audience is going to speak English, you
mhm.
know, let's say 90, 80, 20, 90, 10. So it makes sense for me to be there, you know?
Yeah.
Um, or I'll just have to like, you know, fix the act to be something a bit more visual. You have a
Yeah.
translator or whatever the case may be. But in terms of the business of magic in general as a professional magician, what I feel like as we are in a recession now, I feel like a lot of companies don't have as much money. Budgets are getting cut left,
Mhm.
right, and center. We are regarded as extra entertainment. We are not the main source of entertainment. They're going to book the DJ, they're going to book everything else before they even consider booking a magician. Even if they want a magician, it's always going to be at the tail end of the list. So
Yeah.
if the budgets are, you know, not making sense and they kind of need to cut a couple things, the magician's getting cut for sure. So right now, it's a difficult time. Like I've even lost jobs because they don't have budget anymore. They're moving in a different direction, and even if they really wanted me, it's just like we just can't afford. So then I have to sort of like, you know, compromise my fee sometimes just so, you
Mhm.
know, I'm not losing work. Because if you're so strict on your fee, you know, it's some people can. I mean, look, if my TV show was still out now, maybe I could still say no, that's the fee, that's it. But I haven't been on
Mhm.
TV since 2017. And you know, time moves quickly, people forget quickly.
Yeah.
So I can't have my ego up to the point where I'm like, well, I've had my own TV show. I want 20K, you know? It's like, I can't do that. I can't do that. There's some people that don't know who the hell I am, but they
I
know I'm
think
a
some
good
people are going to
magician.
find this really interesting because some people who are going to be watching this will be, they'll have the perception of you that you're a famous magician, especially with them being in the magic community. They're going to see you as someone who's up there and really successful, had multiple
Yeah.
TV shows, series, and I think they're going to hear this. Some people are going to hear this and say, "Oh, wow, Troy has this in business. He has this flexibility. It's not just I'm Troy the magician. Here's my
No, no,
fee. You
no.
pay it." And I think that's going to be a really interesting thought that, especially in this current time period
Yeah,
economic uncertainty, you have
yeah.
to be adaptable if you're going to choose
100%.
magic as a business.
You have
So
to
that,
make your
but I,
business work for people. Like
Mhm,
again, you have to be realistic about what position that you hold in this
mhm,
entertainment industry. You know, if you're getting booked for a corporate event and you're the main source of entertainment, then sure,
yeah,
they may have the money for you of what you want if they're not booking anything else. But if it's a whole affair and you know they're really trying to get everything in and pennies are getting squeezed, but you need the work and you know if you're realizing right, I haven't been booked in ages because I'm asking for like 10K and only one
mhm,
person has booked me in like 2 months. Not everyone has 10K. So,
yeah,
you know, it just needs to make sense. And, you know, for me, as whatever perception that people have of me, like, oh my God, Troy the magician, like, you know, whatever people think,
Yeah.
if anyone knows me, they know that I'm very humble, I'm very honest. I don't fall into this, I don't know, what
Egotistical,
this
crazy.
egotistical, whatever
Yeah.
people think that I may, if they don't know me or whatever ideas that people might have of me because I've had
Mhm.
success in magic, you know, I'm real. And, you know, there's times I find it hard. I'm sure there's times when Dynamo's found it hard, you know.
Mm.
But you know, everything's like this. Everything's like this. You have to be smart with your business. You actually have to have a strategy. You need to, if you, especially if you're in a gig industry, you're relying on people to book you. And if people don't book
Mhm.
you, you're so what do you do? How do you work around that? So you need to have a strategy in place. Like I know there's magicians that I know that have, you know, they've got their part-time jobs. Their gigs are actually fine enough to sustain them, but just to have the
Mhm.
security of having money coming in every month as well, just in case you have those months where they're not hitting as much. You know, it's everything is, even if that's your strategy, then it's you just, you want to be able to, the dream is to just be a professional magician. That's all you do. I've been
Mhm.
fortunate enough to do that for the last 13 years now. That magic, just being a magician is all I do. I don't need to do anything else. I've been very lucky, been very fortunate that I can do that. And I'm really just relying on my name alone to
Mhm.
do that. And obviously, you know, there's a bit of a rebrand that, because I was just Troy, but now I'm like Troy the Magician. So that's a slight rebrand in a way, where I feel like I've had to do that because when I haven't had my shows out and I was just known as Troy and make the connection, oh, the magician. There's a new generation that have come through now that they don't know who Troy is. So the
Yeah.
fact that I put Troy the magician, it kind of just, oh, who's Troy? Oh, Troy the magician. Okay, they understand it immediately. And even me moving into like doing more branded content, you have to lean into that because
Mhm.
imagine I didn't have any social media. People won't think I exist anymore. People won't
Yeah.
think anyone exists if they don't have any social media in any capacity. No TikTok, no Instagram, no YouTube. Like, where are you? Where is your digital
Most
footprint?
most people make purchases when for the average consumer. There's it's like a really high retention, isn't it, on the TikTok shop and Instagram advertising. The
Mm,
discovery of new products and new brands mostly is through ads on those
yeah,
social platforms. So if people didn't have TikTok and they didn't have social media, they wouldn't know about this crazy lamp that lights up the room of your living room and it gives space
exactly.
lights and why you need it. So I think that's I think very or will be very insightful for anyone who's looking to do magic for money and knowing that they're going to have to maybe make some compromises and things aren't always even at the peak of success with
Yeah,
I think most magicians, especially younger magicians, they grow up, maybe not now because now they'll grow up with the idea of being on social media rather than TV. But
yeah,
when we were growing up, to get a TV show was the goal. So
yes. That
even
was the
at that
pinnacle of success.
exactly. So with that level being achieved, that things still are difficult and things still need to change and be reviewed and be dynamic. So I think that will
Yeah,
give people a lot to think about in terms of that. And then so we had magic as a consumer, magic as a professional magician as a business, and then the last thing was magic as a community, right? I think everyone or most people in magic have heard of the Magic Cafe and the arguments, the heated debates and things that happen on there,
yeah. I mean,
and
I try and stay out of that
news
because
stories.
I know the community is. So I'm just cutting you straight in there. I know
Yeah.
what the magic community is like. I know what type of people it's filled with.
Mhm.
And, you know, everyone, not everyone, but I'm just going to say everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone rubs each other the wrong way. Everyone feels like they've got advice to give. Everyone feels like what they're saying is, you know, that's the gospel way. That's the way you should. I
Mhm.
really stay out of the magic community. And, you know, you could look at it two ways. It's to my detriment or it's for my own
Mental health.
peace, for my mental health. No, for my own peace. Because when I was younger, getting into magic, you know, I was on the Magic Cafe. I was on the
Mhm.
Facebook groups. I hung out a lot of the time, but I just come to realize that what do they say? What do they say to you as a magician when you're just starting? This is what I remember when we went to the Young Magicians Club. I remember we had
Mhm.
magicians come in and they would tell us how to be a good magician. And the first thing that they told us is that don't make your whole life about magic.
Mhm.
You need to be more than your magic. You
Yeah.
need to experience different things in your life to become a well-rounded performer and to actually have something to say when you
Mhm.
perform. If your community is just magicians, not that it's a bad thing. Like there's magicians that, you know, come from all walks of life. Like I know people that are they work in advertising, they work in this, and they work in that, and it's just that just adds a different flavor to who they are.
Yeah.
So they have a voice and they have, a point of view when it comes to magic. But when you just hang around magicians, that it's magic 24/7, tricks, the latest technological release, the latest app, and that's just the conversation all the time. Let's get food, let's get drink, let's talk about magic. Nothing wrong with that. But for me, it's just not for me. It's just
So
I can't overwhelm myself or overstimulate myself with this.
if there's one thing that we can extract from that, from your experience, your an insight that we could offer people who are watching this, it would be, if magic is a predominant part of your life, and
Yeah.
that's, you have your work, you have your studies, whatever it may be that you do in your day-to-day life, you have those things, the responsibilities, and then your only other thing, your only other hobby or outlet is magic. Maybe
Mm,
try something else. Allocate some time to magic every day or every week, or in a frequency that suits you. But also try other things. Go see some music.
absolutely.
Go see a play. Go
Yeah.
go try some new food. Go try, fencing. I don't know, whatever
And the thing
piques your
is,
interest.
all those things will influence your magic more positively,
Yeah.
because for me, music is such a big part of what I love. And
Mm,
it's funny, when I have ideas for anything, it starts from music. It always starts from music. I've gotten a great idea for a trick that has just, I put on, like, I'm a big fan of Luther Vandross. So I'll just put on Luther
mhm.
Vandross. I could be in the shower, I could be in the car, I could be just lying down, and I'm like, oh my God, I got it. Immediately I'm writing down. And that's generally how I get most of my ideas. And other people get ideas from, going to museum trips, or,
Mhm.
like you said, like taking up a sport, or I don't know, some other form of interest. You could be, I don't know, join a chess club, and then you think, oh my God, I've got this great idea that I could
Yeah.
do the chess. I don't know. It can come
So
from anything.
you magicians out there, anyone who's watching this, if you're too absorbed in the world of magic, and you begin to identify as a magician, as a magic person, branch out, try
Yeah.
some new things,
But do you know what?
speak
That's the
speak to some
one
different groups.
that's
Mhm,
the one bit of advice I'll give to any new magician, is just
yeah.
try out everything. Let magic be your core interest,
Mhm,
but experience the world. Make friends who are not magicians.
yeah.
Learn different. Like, magic's always going to be there. The community is always going to be there. You can go to magic
Mhm,
conventions. We're at the touch of a button if we want to talk about ideas or whatever it may be. But yeah, let's mix it up. You want to have a point of view as a magician, because this goes back to the business side of now. If
mhm,
you really want to maximize your gig potential, you want people to book you. You
mhm.
don't want people that just book a magician. Then you've got loads of competition. Some good, some bad. Bookers generally don't know sometimes whether they're booking a good or a bad magician. You just hope, obviously, that they realize that you are the good one out of a bad bunch.
Yes.
But you really want people to book you. I need people to want to book Troy, not just book a
Mhm,
magician. No, we need Troy. And that you need to find a way to get people to. And social media is a great tool to do that. You 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 push yourself on social media, you get a big following, nice engagement. People are going to pay attention. They say, this is a guy that we need to book. You don't want people just to type in magician in London,
yes.
and then I know everyone's doing the, what do they call it, to be at the top of the
SEO.
SEO. I know everyone's paying for their
Mhm,
SEOs to be, typing keywords and to be at the top of Google when they're,
yeah.
and you know what? That is a strategy. That is a method. And if it works for you, amazing. Some people
Mhm,
rely on the Google reviews, and the Google reviews really help, because we all look at reviews. We wanna look at, like, 4, 5-star reviews saying this, they were amazing, Mikey, they were amazing. Okay, good. They're good enough to book. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is you need to stand out as an individual.
I think this goes back to what you were saying, what we started this conversation with first experience of magic and what magic is. And magic is not just magic tricks; it's an emotion, it's a feeling. When people
Mm,
look at us, and this is not exclusive to magic. All the way through our lives, we have a personal brand. If
mm,
even non magicians, if they ask their friend, describe to me to another person, describe me. Who am I? What am I? How would you describe me to another person? That's a personal brand, and depending on what that person says about
yeah,
you, depends on whether that third person wants to speak to you.
yeah,
So I think that's a really important point to consider, that everything feeds into our magic, and not to be too insular and concentrated on that one thing, and to almost have a personal brand as ourselves, as a human, as a person, as an individual, and then also try to feed that into some sort of personal branding rather than just being a generic wedding magician in X area. But why? Why are you the wedding magician? What's the reason that you're unique or that someone would hire you for their wedding over another magician?
Yeah.
Lovely.
No,
I think we've
it's a lot
touched.
to think about.
I think throughout that we've touched on all of those 3 points: the magic as a consumer, magic as a business, magic as a community. And I am with this review channel
Mm,
becoming more engaged with the magic community, which, like you, over the years, I've found myself happier when I've disengaged with the magic community because it can be
yeah.
quite a troubled space. And now I found myself coming being dragged into it because people want to ask me things. And like you, I've been a professional magician for many years. And for anyone who doesn't know, myself and Troy, we first met at the Young Magicians Club when we were both teenagers, and we've seen each other grow into adults and professional magicians and all of that stuff. So it's really interesting to see
And
how,
break dances.
yeah, yeah, and
For
I'm
those of
sure
you that
many
don't
other
know.
things. Well, I don't think anyone will know that I also studied music production and was a rapper, and I have on SoundCloud. It's not under my name, so don't go searching it.
All right, guys,
But
let's go search that. Let's go search that right
I
now.
I have lots of music under a particular name, and it's not SW Erdonay's music either.
Wow,
Uh,
that would have been a great name.
yeah, it would have if only someone had thought of that name. Anyway,
Man like Erdonez.
yeah, exactly. I think the interesting thing there would be that most people who would listen to your music wouldn't even get the reference. And aren't these the most interesting things? It's just like when magicians over explain a magic trick. When
Yeah,
someone sees a magician who doesn't need to over explain it, who just
yeah.
allows you to come to your own conclusion, it's so much more seductive and interesting.
Mm.
But we've spoken about how magic is and your thoughts on magic now. Where do you think, with the rise of AI, ChatGPT, with social media content in the last 10 years, where do you see magic moving in the next 10 years, 20 years?
I mean, who knows? Who knows? I mean, I think ultimately, I think right now it feels like we don't really know because the technology is advancing so quickly. Part of me feels like, are we even going to know what's real and what's fake anymore in terms of a performance, in terms of
Hmm.
what anyone's doing? You can change people's faces. You could do a whole video in AI of you doing a magic performance on stage, and he wasn't even there. So it just makes me think: will there be any need for us to perform? Or it could
Really?
go the other way. It could go the other way completely because we're getting so inundated with all this AI and new technology and everything's not what it seems and it's all fake and computer generated. There's going to be a thirst for people for to have real experiences again, real live experiences. So it can go one of either way. Like we get really consumed by the AI and that's just how the world is, or we go the other way and go, actually, this is getting a bit much.
Hmm.
I kind of miss that realness. But then I'm talking from someone that's my generation and before. Anyone
Yeah.
after, that's all they know.
Hmm.
And usually things don't go back on itself in terms of technology. So
Well, but
everything goes forward.
we do see cycles and patterns, though. We see, every 10 years, 12 years, we see a cycle of fashion come is in clothes
Yeah,
come back into
yeah, no,
fashion,
for
and
sure.
music and tastes, and so and then also foods. Like
For
some
sure.
foods come back that maybe were posh. I was having a conversation with friends yesterday about kind of pate and about how pate is made, and it used to be the idea of pate used to be a very posh thing. It was a very affluent thing, only for rich people, and now it's
Yeah,
just you go to your supermarket and you buy it, and it has no association with high life. So
yeah,
I think it's really interesting that you're kind of unsure, but you see these two forks of possibilities, because in the last 5 years or
yeah.
10 years, I've been saying how we're so fortunate as magicians because most of the things that we do, it's so analog. And so it's such a real human experience that a
Yeah.
good magician will never be without work, because
Mm,
in a more digital, more virtual world, people will, I think, like you say, yearn more for these real
mm,
experiences. And we're seeing that a little bit now as well. we're seeing more magic bars pop up, and we're seeing more restaurants and things have magicians frequently, because people now, post pandemic, and now that people are starting to have a little bit more money, there are fears of harder financial times. But there are always some people with lots of money. But I think a lot of middle class, middle, lower class, and working classes, they're starting to see some recovery in how much money they have. So I think that we're going to see more people engage with this, with magicians, because it's one of
I
those
mean, I hope
few
so.
experiences. Yeah, well, yeah, me too. Fingers crossed.
I hope so.
But that's it. It's interesting that you kind of see those two possibilities, because of course we do have the, what was the movie Wall-E, where we're all of the humans leave Earth and we're all in a spaceship and we're all, you know, gigantic and obese, and we're in these hovering chairs, and we live in a virtual reality world, and that's all
Yeah.
we experience.
But that's
Yeah.
kind of how I feel that is going. But look, at the end of the day, like you said, I do believe what you said is true. Like people will crave like the more analog live
Mhm.
performances, but it's really hard to say. The thing is, as much as things change all the time, and they have been changing forever, and magicians have had to adapt to the times, I think we will adapt as well. Like we will
Mhm.
use it to our advantage in some capacity, like we've done with every new bit of technology that's come our way. You know, we're taking advantage of AI and making more impossible analog experiences with AI that doesn't feel like it's AI, you know? So,
Mhm.
but we've been the masters of disguising and being a chameleon in this technological world. So thinking about it now, we'll probably just use it to our advantage. But I think off the bat of you asking me, I just felt quite, I don't know, I don't want to say worried, but I don't know. Sometimes I think it's like the
A
death of life.
growing demand for the virtual lifestyle, because
Yeah.
with things like I have tried an Apple Vision Pro, right? The new
Mm.
headset by Apple.
Which they're
It is
discontinuing, by the
incredible.
way.
Really,
Yeah, I
that is
read that
very
they've stopped
interesting.
making them. It's too
But
expensive
that is true for the average person.
for the
It's
average
no
person.
one's going
Yeah.
to spend that kind of money. But if that technology can ever be made in a way that's affordable,
Mm.
it is insanely immersive
And it
and
will.
amazing. Probably. Well, as we know, everything throughout time, technology, when we had horse and cart, everyone said motor vehicles will never take off. They're loud and they're expensive. And then now who can survive without a car? And then, the internet came and everyone said, well, who needs this crazy internet stuff? We've got the yellow pages, we've got books. Why do we? And now we can't live with. So you're right. There is an evolution of technology, but with the analog thing in mind, when you're performing for people, what do you find gets the best reactions, or that your audience might, from your perspective, be enjoying the most? Is it the things, because I know what I get the most, and I'll maybe say that after, but is it the things that happen in their hand, or is it things that happen in their mind, or is it the things, the eye candy, the visual magic? What
Mm.
seems to get the best response for you?
Definitely things that happen. Well, the thing is, it's all happening in their mind.
Mhm.
So that's one thing. But mentalism for sure. You could tell someone, the person, someone's first crush or the name of their dead grandparent, and it's just, how do you know this? Because
Yeah.
there's no, they know, if like when you're handling things like coins and cards and Rubik's cubes, that there must be some way that you're able to do it. But to just
Mhm.
access someone's mind and get information as it's perceived that way, it's amazing. So I would put mentalism at number one. Number
Wow. Okay.
two, I would say things that can happen in their hands,
Hmm.
objects that can transform and they can keep. Like if you're
Hmm.
able to give someone a souvenir, I always strive to do that in my performances. I always try to give something away that wasn't in the condition that it was when they originally saw it.
Hmm.
And then yeah, third, I will put like, the visual things that, you produce something from flash paper, or, a card change, or those things are great. Like there's a video on my Instagram when I just did a simple card transposition, and the girl freaked out, lost her mind. And
Yeah.
we sometimes forget as magicians. Obviously, we do these moves all the time. We do it thousands of times. You just forget sometimes the impact that just a simple card change, a color change can
Hmm.
have, and a transposition. And even as someone that's been on TV, got a good social media following, I always put pressure on myself that I want to perform a new trick that no one's seen before, because You know, you wanna hold yourself at that level. Like you want to be the one that's
Cool.
performing things that people haven't really seen yet, especially magicians. But ultimately, as much as I do strive that, sometimes I fall back into the simple meat and potatoes of whatever area of magic you're doing, whether it's card magic, a simple transposition. It's always like that.
But
It's
there's
like
nothing wrong with that, right?
there's nothing
Because
wrong with it.
in terms of if we compare magic with music, if you see someone who plays the piano, for example, but
Mm,
this translates to any instrument, that person will know the fundamentals. They will know the keys, the chords, the basic structure to all music, and
mm,
they will be able to make you feel sad or happy or energized or calm by any arrangement of music. And sometimes it's a really simple structure, and sometimes it's incredibly complicated. And I think it's the same with magic. You know,
mm.
sometimes given the right situation, it is just that top change. That's all we need to do. No overcomplication.
And Bennett, Bennett Earl is a master at that. You know,
Mm.
he doesn't do any look, he's got the skills to do whatever the hell he wants with a deck of cards. But
Yeah.
some of his most impressive effects rely on really basic sleight of hand that we all know and can do. But it just goes to show it is really about performance and how you connect and how you structure your routine and all those things.
Okay. I think.
Again,
Go
I
on.
forgot the question again. We're going on such a
uh,
tangent. I'm like, what are
well,
we
we
actually
were
talking about?
the start of that question was how you see magic going in the future, and
Yes.
um, which angles it might go, and then it was the question of what gets the best. I don't want to say reactions because I don't feel like magic should be reaction led, because there are some people. For example, I was hired for a twins' 21st birthday by
Mm,
quite an affluent family recently, and they were all very relaxed. There were a couple of 21, 22-year olds who were quite emotional and responsive and reactive, but most people were very reserved. But then, so I left thinking, wow, they didn't really enjoy it. And
was
then
I shit today?
yeah, exactly. Maybe I had an off day. And then the
Yeah.
client emailed me and he said, you know, Scott, everyone was talking about your magic after you left, and everyone were thrilled and they thought it was amazing. I said, well, good, because in my mind, and I didn't say this to him, but in my mind, they weren't enjoying it that much.
No,
But
I mean
some
it's great
people
to
are
get
just
that
like that.
reassurance.
Yeah, so I feel like saying what gets the best, what kind of magic gets the best reaction is not necessarily a healthy way to talk about magic, because people react differently. And someone
Yes.
might sit there completely calmly, but in their head, their mind's exploding. But
Yeah.
they're just not
I
an
mean,
emotive person.
I think we've all had that. We've all had that.
Mm.
I've had that several times. I've done gigs where people have, people have watched me like just getting reactions all the time on like social media, thinking they're gonna book me. And then people are just like, cool, that was amazing, thank you. Yeah, you do think like, am I actually living up to my reputation?
Mhm.
Like, are people actually enjoying this? But like you, I've had emails where saying, "Oh, you were amazing. Thank you so much. I couldn't believe it." And just like, well, you could have showed it a bit more. I didn't feel like you guys. But no, it's nice. It's nice when we do get those emails just saying
Yeah.
thank you and how they felt, because we do wonder like, was I having enough night? Did people just not enjoy me? Was I flashing everything? Like, what's going on?
And this is really
Yeah.
important, especially for younger magicians who might be watching this and enjoying this chat. That just because you have certain thoughts in your mind, like it didn't go well, or
Mm,
you're very critical of yourself, because of course in life we're all our own worst critics. So just because you come away from a performance thinking I didn't do very well, I'm not going to do that again.
yeah.
Just persevere a little bit, because you don't know, and especially if that person is a friend or a family member. Of course, they're going to be kind
Yeah.
usually, unless you have brutally honest friends. But most
Which is
people,
great as well. You want brutally honest
yeah,
friends.
true, true, yeah. But that's sometimes hard to take, and sometimes people don't have the personal growth to take it constructively, and they take it as a
Yeah, that's
criticism
true.
and things like that. Especially younger people, you know, people who are under 20, under 25, people with less life experience. It's a difficult thing to hear some kind of negative feedback. But I
Yeah.
think that is super important. What you said basically about how even at the kind of celebrity level of performing magic, you you still, some people aren't always crazy, and they're not always reacting and
No, no,
running out of
no.
the room and crying and screaming. So it's good to kind of dispel that myth of, oh well, I don't get reactions like the people on social media. Yeah, but that's not their reactions all the time.
Yeah, obviously we're cherry picking, aren't we? We're putting the best of our performances online because obviously we want to create a perception. And
Yeah,
although the perception that is real, I do get those reactions, but it's not all the time.
yeah.
It's again, like you said, you don't know what type of crowd you're going to be performing for. Some are going to be more reserved, some are more like a bit louder, a bit more
Hmm.
emotional. So just depending on how they are, it's you don't know what you're gonna get.
I really hope that people find that piece of insight really helpful to their magic going forward as well. And they don't, and
Yeah,
it helps a certain amount of people feel less deflated when they feel like they've
yeah.
not done a good performance, because
Why are
for all
people
they
not
know,
running away?
yeah, exactly. Right. Before, what are we on? Uh,
Yeah,
I
how long
think
we?
we've been chatting for about an hour. So
Damn.
we'll move on to the final question. If there's something that you could think about within magic
Yeah.
that you would like to see change, whether that be with products, with people, with, and this is why I said at the very beginning why we might loop back to education. And you said how you can tell when people have been educated well because
Mm,
their response and the way they interact with you, and the way that, some people, they might see you, and I always think this as well, that magic has a really unique and fantastic way of exposing someone's true self. So if someone sees, or you flash slightly and someone says, I saw that, everyone, I saw how he did that, that exposes their true character to the group.
mm,
And then there are other people who will happily see something, but they'll have the decency to respect your performance. And
mm.
maybe afterwards they'll whisper in your ear, oh, yeah, I think I caught you on that thing, but fantastic job. So I think
Yeah.
the magic has a really great way of exposing how people's true intentions and
Mm.
personality. So with that in mind, if there's one thing in magic that you would like to see change moving forward, that if you could say to, whether it be younger magicians, older magicians, what would you like to see change or happen differently within magic moving forward?
Um. I mean, yeah, that's a big
Can be a
question.
couple of things, can be one thing. We touched on social media, maybe the fact that people post less magic trick performances on social media, or it could be,
Yeah,
I don't
that
know,
won't
what are
happen.
your thoughts? No, but what
That
would you
won't happen.
like
People
to
won't
see
post
happen?
less. What would I like to see
I
happen?
agree with you, but what would your, a couple of things
Um.
that you would like to see that would positively impact the magic community moving forward?
I mean, I'd love, for anyone that gets into magic, remember why they fell in love with it. And
Yeah.
if they even get to a place where they feel like they have to start revealing and exposing to just get attention and views and whatever, maybe reconsider. I mean, again, remember why you got into it, the love. We all get into it and we want to keep the etiquette and be the best magicians that we can. But then, when things are not going in the ways that we want, we tend to,
Hmm.
what's the word I'm looking for? We tend to compromise our position.
Yes.
So I would love people just to hold that respect that they originally had, and just try and keep that because it affects a lot of us. Even though I've said also that people watch it, they forget it's going to happen anyway. Da
Hmm.
da 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 da. But still, like you asked me, what would I like to happen? That's what I would
Hmm.
like to happen. Another thing.
I think particularly
mm,
for anyone who's new to magic that may not have any experience of what magic was like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and how special,
Yeah.
when we were kids going to the magic circle and the young magicians club, how special magic felt when there was a
Mm.
magician, a lecturer, and they shared something with us, and you couldn't buy it on a download, and you couldn't, there was no other place to access it, and you might write some notes on it, and or you might ask them if you can record it. I mean, we didn't have particularly advanced phones back then, but I think that the people coming into magic now don't know that. They don't have that experience of how special magic was once
I think
upon a
it's
time.
because it's too easily available. And I think with the
Mm,
magic companies as well, as much as obviously we love them and we need the magic companies, because we need to get our material and our props and things from somewhere. So, but I think there's like the advertising for their companies is so broad now that everyone's just, where was a secret before, where you didn't know about the illusionists and you didn't know about the Theory 11s. I feel like everyone knows like a magic shop where they can buy professional routines that they shouldn't even be. There needs to be a few more doors before they can get to that one. You know what I
But
mean?
this
So
is
it
this
feels
is
like,
food for thought for anyone who might be any creators out there, because I know of maybe 5 or 10 creators who they have their own website, they just make their own effects, they don't really wholesale anything through larger companies, and they just make small amounts of units, which gives an appeal because not many other magicians will be performing that. So I think
yeah,
that this a really interesting note for anyone who's watching this who might be involved with any of the magic shops or magic producers or anyone who wants to get into the creation of magic tricks. Think about how accessible everyone needs to earn a living and we all need to make money. But think about what's more valuable. Is it the accessibility of everything to everyone, like Netflix? Because who cares about canceling their Netflix subscription and then buying it again in 6 months' time? No one. No one has any kind of desire to stay subscribed to any streaming service. So I think with Magic, it's similar. That is good food for thought. And I know that Goran Clark, the CEO of Illusionist, he was saying that illusionists have been trying to produce less tricks but higher quality tricks,
and they do.
which
I
means
think
mm,
I've
yeah,
seen
certainly
that pivot.
over the last year or two, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So would you like to see more of that in Magic as well? Would you like to see kind of not necessarily the accessibility of it, but would you like to see less things less junk being produced and
I mean, of
more
course. I
quality
mean,
stuff coming out?
yeah, you want there to be a certain element of quality control, not just I have an idea, let's make it cheaply and sell it and see how much money we can make.
Yeah.
But it's, you said people need to make a decision. Do they want to make really quality things and limited where people see it, or
Mm,
make money? And I think a lot of the time people will choose to make money, to be honest with
yeah.
you, because when you want when you're just looking purely at the business aspects, you're trying to sell to as many magicians as possible, and you're going to try and reach them and find new people that are not even magicians. You just want people
Hmm.
to buy your product. So I understand it from a business point that people just want to make money, and they're not doing anything wrong because people want to discover magic and find it. They're going to find it, whether it is going out to people that I feel like it maybe shouldn't be going out to, like the regular, sort of
Hmm.
layman spectator, and they have just access to how we do these things. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Well, so there's a particular magic shop who we both know, the magician, and I think a lot of people watching this would also know. But he had on his magic shop, to get into the shop, you have to answer a basic question, and unless you know a little bit about magic, the average person will never know the answer to this question.
yeah, there needs to be some like firewalls.
Hmm.
There needs to be some firewalls for sure. And I see a lot of magicians who sell little products on their website. There's no firewalls, just shop, boom, all the tricks that they do in their act. Like you've got clients that are going to be looking at your website, and they could just buy the tricks that you're doing in your show. Of course, we know it's
Hmm.
not just about buying tricks and you become a magician. It's a bit more than that. But we, we still want to have that air of mystery and,
Yes.
you know,
That someone
yeah, it
can't go
just,
out and learn our tricks, or find a
yeah,
video on social media. Oh, I saw someone perform that trick where the pack of cards ends up in a piece of glass or transfer. Yeah, I saw that
yes.
on this magician's website and this. So yeah, I think that is a perfect point to wrap this up on, because what we're saying is that there needs to be some appeal and there needs to be something special. So what I think what you were to answer the question of what you would like to see moving forward in Magic, from what I'm hearing, what you're saying is that you would like to see Magic get a little bit of what made it special for the last 1,000 years.
Mm,
You would like it to a little bit of that specialness and a little bit of that secrecy and a little bit of that allure and appeal to come back
mm,
into Magic.
yeah.
Which the reason I say that's a great point to wrap this up on is because we don't want to give too much away. I think we've spoken enough about Magic and about what Magic is and what it could be. So, with that in mind, Troy, thank you so much for giving up your precious time. to be with me and to record this for people.
My pleasure.
And if there's demand for this, because I originally had the idea of all of this series of videos to be 15 minutes long, and they've all ended up like more than an hour each. So if there's demand for this,
you've got
and
some
people
editing
really
to do.
this, absolutely, I do. And particularly with your episode, I've got some bleeps to add in, some censored.
Yeah, sorry about
censored words. But that's what I wanted with this. I wanted people to be honest. And that's why I haven't stopped anyone from talking, because these are important conversations and these are important thoughts that people need to think about in magic, whether they're coming into it now or whether they've been in it for years. So yes, once again, thank you for your time. This has been a chat with Troy, the magician.
Thank you, Scott.